Hey, this is Angel the Hardcore Homo. You're listening to In Your Head. I'm going to give you some head radio. Online.
All right, we are back, and we are joined by Kevin Kleinrock. Welcome to In Your Head.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Cool. How you doing tonight?
Doing all right. Doing good.
Let everybody know you got the big DVD out, which is well, you got XPW stuff out too, but
we do more and more coming.
Yeah, because you actually have the whole season out too, the season 1 and 2.
Yeah, season 2 will be out in January.
Oh, okay. Well, you can pre-order season 2 now, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, but you got the Wrestling Society X, the first and last season, on DVD, and it's like a 4 DVD set.
Yes, it is. It's yeah. I mean, this was kind of and everything, putting everything in their set. I mean, you know, we got our run on MTV. You know, I guess you can rehash the positives and negatives of that, but I think most people have heard or read those at this point and have their own opinions there. But, you know, we knew that there was no point in holding anything back, so we put every single bit of content we could on this DVD release. It's got all the episodes, including the unaired season finale. It's got all the WS Extra episodes that aired on the internet. It's got deleted scenes. It's got alternate commentary over every match, at least by myself and Keith Lipinski, kind of talking about the background development of the characters and the writing of the show and the behind the scenes of putting together a nationally televised wrestling show. And then some of the matches also have commentary by the wrestlers that were in the matches. And there's music videos and wrestler bio videos and Lacey and Lizzie Valentine bikini videos and before they were in WSX matches, and it's like 600-plus minutes of greatness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's something I've actually talked on here before. Like, I always wanted to see that on, like, a wrestling DVD as a commentary track. That was, like, pretty cool you guys did that.
Well, I think that the thing was, you know, I mean, coming from a wrestling background to this show, I've been working in wrestling in some capacity since I was 16. It was important for me not to, I wasn't looking to exploit the business. I didn't want it to be like, well, let's do commentary and let's just, you know, run down the wrestling business or reveal any secrets that haven't been revealed before. But I knew that as a fan, that's what I would have loved to see. Nobody's done that. And the WWE is not going to do that. And TNA is not going to do that. I mean, they've done alternate commentary before, but it's always still kind of in character, or you know, they're speaking from the heart and they're breaking kayfabe, but it's not like they're really talking about the behind-the-scenes processes of putting the show together. You know, Triple H is still Triple H, but you know, as a normal person, as opposed to the wrestler. But he's not sitting there saying, when Stephanie and I were laying in bed, we had this idea for, you know, this character that turned into, you know, you're not getting that from anybody else. So, you know, that's really what we wanted to try to do with the alternate commentary.
We got a caller here. He's calling all the way from Portugal. We got LTNA.
Indeed. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen.
All right. Well, you got a question for you're not the guest here, buddy. You got a question for Kevin Kleinrock?
I have a question. I'm hearing noise here.
Yeah, it's
no, it's not. It's a cell phone. My first question is, what were the expectations that you guys had for WSX on MTV?
Well, we expected the network would kind of get it more. And I think that was one of the biggest problems in terms of them giving up a little bit too soon. It was a stretch for them to try doing their own wrestling show in the first place, and we appreciated them putting that kind of faith in us. But the network was going through so much chaos at the time. People were getting fired left and right because no shows were working for them. And so it was really easy for them to give up on a show that they didn't have any other shows like and say, it's just not working. But our expectations or our hopes were that they were going to get that, you know, with a show like The Hills or Run's House, you can have a television series, you can have a DVD of it, but you're not going to have the potential that you would have with a wrestling show where you can have live events and pay-per-views and action figures. And we really thought that they would kind of really get that more than they did. And And our expectation, or our hope, was that we were going to be able to get a few years out of a run on the network. Not necessarily Tuesdays at 10:30, which was a bad decision in the first place. But we had faith at first that it would be able to, kind of get a little bit farther down the road than it did. We're really proud of what we did, but I just think that they didn't get it, and so our expectations in the end really didn't matter, because their expectations, I think their expectations were too low at first, and so they didn't put in the support that was needed to get to where it could have been, an actual real revenue stream for them.
Did MTV know that ECW was on at that time, or?
Oh yeah, well, they didn't realize when they programmed us there, but 3 minutes after they called and told us that, and they called Houston Curtis, Big Vision CEO and the executive producer of the show, and told him that, and he called me all excited, and I was so excited because it's like, oh my God, we finally have a time slot, and he's like, it's Tuesdays at 10:30, and I was like, yeah, and then I hung up the phone, and I went, oh shit, and so I called him right back, and I'm like, that's not going to work for us, that's right up against ECW, and the thing was that the first meeting that we had with the creative executives at MTV, and don't get me wrong when I talk about MTV not getting the show, the creative executives that we worked with were very supportive of the show, and I think that they did everything they could to make the higher ups at the network see our vision. But thanks to LA traffic, I walked into the first meeting we had on the creative end of the show about a half hour late. And the first thing when I walked in the room they said was, so we understand Wednesday night's the night for the show. And I was like, yes, that's perfect, because it's the only night there's no wrestling on TV. Right. But by the time it went up the chain and MTV decided that Tuesday nights was going to be testosterone night on the network, it was going to be, let's put the programming for guys on Tuesday nights. And, they made the decision to put us up against ECW, and, I think that maybe we would have had a little bit more of a chance if they weren't airing the show 97 times a week, and therefore, it wasn't Monday Night Raw, ECW, even TNA to some extent. It's destination television for wrestling fans because it's one time. You get it once, and that's it.
Yeah, and you can't, watch it the next night.
Right, and the problem was when MTV finally realized that the preview of our show, because what they were doing was they were previewing the show Friday nights, and that rating wasn't really counting in our rating. But when you added the Friday night airing to the Monday night, to the Tuesday night airing, we were out rating TNA every week, even at the end. But since that Friday night rating didn't really count in the MTV world, people would either watch it Friday or they'd watch it later in the week. And so our Tuesday night numbers weren't that high. If you watch
Friday, you wouldn't watch it again Tuesday. I mean, you might, but you wouldn't watch it waiting.
Exactly. And so that was part of the problem there. But then when they decided that they finally got it and that the preview airing was hurting us, then they decided to make it, well, let's get rid of the preview and let's get rid of all the repeats. And the problem is, if you know nothing about MTV, you know that you can catch any MTV show a dozen times a week, because that's what they do. They repeat their shows. So now they've canceled all the repeats, but they haven't told anybody that. They let us know kind of as it had happened, but they didn't do anything to get the word out, like this is the only time to see it. And so the ratings fell again because people were expecting to be able to catch it, Thursday night, Saturday night, Sunday.
Yeah. If you were used to watching it Friday night and then all of a sudden it's not there,
right,
you assume it's not on.
And the funny thing is, not only have they continued to air it worldwide, but you could still catch it on MTV Trace. I don't know if it's still airing now, but literally 3 weeks ago, it was still airing on MTV Trace here in the United States. And I think I watched I was flipping channels at home one Saturday night, and I'm like, oh my God, the show's still on. And it was like episode 7 or something. And they just keep repeating them. They keep airing 2 at a time, and they're repeating and repeating. And it's been, we've been off the air for almost 9 months.
Did they ever show the final episode? Were they airing them?
No, they never aired the final episode, and now you can finally see it on the DVD. And I mean, obviously I'm proud of what we did, but that final episode's it's really good. It's 22 action-packed minutes, and it'd be really cool if someday we were able to go back and edit, not having to deal with TV time, that whole exploding ring steel cage match, because that match was just incredible. You had 4 guys in there who are cutting-edge athletes. And, even cut for TV time, it was a very entertaining match. But if we get the opportunity someday to go back and release it unedited for TV, I put that up there against any television match in the history of pro wrestling on cable TV.
Mm-hmm. Just quick too about the time being Tuesday nights on ECW time. It was also 10:30. It wasn't like at 10 at the same time. It was half after ECW was on a half hour. So that was doubly bad, I think.
Well, and that was the thing, is that they got to program their main event against us.
Right.
And it wasn't like we were up against the opening segment of ECW. We were up against whatever the main event was that night. And it was just really, really bad decision making.
Yeah, it was kind of like reverse what Nitro did, like when they would go to 2 hours and put the first half on before.
Right, that makes sense.
They wouldn't want to start their show while Raw was already on.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else, LTNA fan?
I have a second question, but before I ask it, the show is still showing here in MTV Portugal.
Really?
Yeah, I checked on MTV. It has poor subtitles because the guys don't know a lot of pro wrestling. The guys that do the subtitles, but still, I think the last time I checked it was still showing here in Portugal. So
that's funny because I've been we at Big Vision have been speaking recently about starting to distribute our DVDs into Portugal. Maybe we'll get a chance to release this show there someday on DVD.
It were the first shows they were showing, so it was the beginning of the first season, so it's kind of like late. But still, my second question quickly, because I guess that we have other callers here. How it was for you to work with Keith Lipinski? Is he as charismatic as it's rumored?
How much did he pay you to ask that question?
Yeah, email me. He is a great fan of mine.
I love Keith. Keith has a great mind for the business. He comes up with some of the best, cheesiest ideas that there are. I got to give him credit. Most of the Matt Classic stuff, most of that 70s team stuff, were from Keith's mind. And I mean, Keith really helped out because when it came to scouting talent, I knew that if anybody had a mind for who was out there and available, it was Keith. And so, a lot of times he'd be sending me tapes of ROH or other tapes, check out this guy, check out that guy. He's definitely responsible for bringing guys like Josh Abercrombie and Tyler Black into the company. So, I love working with Keith, and I'm hoping that there are some more projects with us in the future. And he, we ended up bringing him in to host Ultimate Insiders presents Doing Time with New Jack, and I mean, anybody that sees that will automatically see the his personality, and that was a great. It was. I can't think of, in hindsight, anyone else that would have done that interview better.
Where would you rate
him?
He
homes you money now.
Where would you rate him in all-time great timekeepers?
Well, do I get to include myself on that list? Or no. He's a pretty darn good timekeeper. I mean, he's pretty accurate with the at that time. The one hand on the stopwatch, one hand on the ring bell. It's not a skill that everybody can master, but he seemed to get it down. And then, unfortunately, we had to cut his one on-camera appearance from the DVD because we had to remove the musical performances from the DVD. So you didn't get to see him telling Matt Sydal and Lizzie Valentine they had to leave the Good Charlotte concert to go get ready for their match coming up. But alas, he did get to do the alternate commentary. So,
well, thanks for calling in, man.
Okay, thank you and goodbye.
You got a question there, Jason?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions actually. So, one question I want to ask for sure is because I would love to get involved in the business from the behind-the-scenes aspect of creating characters, writing shows, coming up with all that stuff. What are, without a doubt, the pros and cons of being in that position?
Wow. That's the first time anybody's ever asked me that question. You get bonus points. Thank you. First first off, you have to have your heart into it. When I decided it was right before I turned 13 years old. I remember, I could tell you where I was. I was sitting on my best friend's bed watching WrestleMania 7. I'd been a fan of wrestling all my life, but I never really, I wasn't a diehard fan. I watched it when it was on. I watched the pay-per-views, which back then was 4 a year or 5. I think it was still only 4 at that point a year. But in that moment, watching that pay-per-view, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to, and at the time, young, naive, wrestling fan, I was like, I want to be president of the WWE. I want to be Jack Tunney. I want to be the matchmaker. I want to decide who's going to wrestle each other. And flash forward a couple of years later, and realizing it's not, Jack Tunney wasn't really the one pulling the strings. I knew that I wanted to be involved in the business, but if anyone's ever seen me, I'm not the most intimidating physically person, and I don't have a very high pain tolerance. I acknowledge that from the beginning. And so I knew I wasn't going to be a wrestler. But I still wanted to be involved, and it was that creative side that really was interesting to me. And so, that was just always something I wanted to do, and it took me years and years to finally kind of get taken under this person's wing and that person's wing to really develop kind of the knowledge to go ahead and do it. And to be quite honest, I know that there's people out there now that would still look at me and say, what does that kid know? What has that guy ever done? He was never a worker. He was never this. He was never that. But I think that, people that are creative can excel in this business, and I think that that's a lot of what's lacking right now. That's why I don't know. I watch TNA and I don't get it. You've got great minds sitting back there writing TNA, and nothing is exciting or over-exciting or exhilarating to me. And I don't get it. And I think that 99% of the time, everything's been done. Every angle imaginable has been done. It's just a matter of putting a new spin on it. And that was what Paul Heyman was a master of. So much of what they did was just modern, more realistic, more gritty takes on what had been done before in the old NWA or the old Mid-South or wherever. And, the advantage is obviously being able to have that creative outlet and being able to, for lack of a better term, be that puppet master. I mean, that's what it is. You're getting to sit there and basically write these mini movies every week and write drama every week, and that's where it's really exciting. And for me, that was always my focus. Especially looking at Wrestling Society X and how things worked. We had a team that was basically myself, Mark Keenan, Cody Michaels, who was a wrestler and who worked behind the scenes for ECW and for XPW, and Vampiro, and I would do most of the basic storyline structuring and creative writing, and then I would sit down and we'd go over things, and Mark and Vamp would have their input, and then I turn it over to them from the wrestler perspective to make the match tell the story the right way. I've never once said that, having not been a worker, I'm best equipped for the intricacies of the matches. It's like, here's the story we want to get across. Here's what I see the finish should be. What's your thought? And we always worked well as a team. I think, even back with XPW, that's kind of how Rob Black and I worked. Rob would really come up with the overall storylines for the main event, for the title picture, and for some of the other bigger angles, and I would fill in the details to the story and really try to, add the color within the story, and then kind of take care of the undercard and all the other kind of storylines going on. And it's, it really, I can't stress more that the Wrestling Society X show was literally a dream come true. How many people get to go from a 12-year-old, I want to write wrestling, to having a network, even for only 10 episodes, give you that ability and put, a few $1 million behind letting you write a wrestling show. So, literally a dream come true. The negative, obviously, is you got to have thick skin. And you've got to be able to take criticism, and you've got to be able to know that you're never going to be able to please everybody. And there's always going to be people that think they can do it better, and maybe some people can do it better. But it's just a matter of putting your own, and it's got to be something you have to have your heart into, because if your heart's not into it 100%, it's going to show through with lackluster storylines, lackluster details. And one of the things I really tried to do with WSX was pay attention to the details that I felt people always overlooked. I know people talk about it all the time, and it's always bothered me, like how the WWE, still to this day, enforces the rules that they want to enforce when it's convenient. You know, why a disqualification with the chair in one match is okay, but then, you know, someone pulls out a sledgehammer in another match and there's no disqualification. Or the reason that we had Ricky Banderas' face the way it was from day one and why we made the poor guy go through a couple hours of makeup every day was because the way that WWE handled the Kane unmasking years ago just drove me crazy. How are you going to sell for years that somebody was charred and burned and named and then just kind of ignore that? Or come up with a bad excuse for why that's not there.
He was kind of messed up when they took the mask off, and then like a couple weeks later they just like abandoned it.
They got lazy. And I get it. I mean, I do get it, because it was an issue. And, you know, had we been touring the country, you know, I would have made Ricky get that makeup put on every night or figured out something else. But it's those small attention to details. It's the reason, and a lot of this stuff is kind of explained in the alternate commentary on the DVD. Some of the things that we did. Like, it always annoyed me that, let's go back to the sledgehammer. All right, Monday Night Raw. If a guy in the first hour is getting his ass kicked and is desperate, why wouldn't he go looking under the ring for some object to use? Yet all of a sudden, main event time comes around, and oh look, there's conveniently a sledgehammer that's been there all show that nobody else decided to try to use. It's just silly, which is why I felt like, all right, if we're gonna have weapons and tables and chairs and stuff, let's just have them at ringside. Let's put them there in plain view so people can grab them if they want, not grab them if they don't want to. But let's not play the silly. Let's enforce rules or have logic when it's convenient. I tried watching TNA again a few months ago, and I cannot accept the fact that in 2007, we're supposed to, as wrestling fans, believe that Kurt Angle's wife faked that she was slapped by Sting, and that Kurt Angle hasn't watched the footage, and that he's not. It's stupid. It's. Well, I understand
if
that
Impact was on MTV and it had all those replayings, he could have found it out.
Exactly. Like, to me, I understand that a lot of people think that wrestling fans are like the lowest common denominator of human beings, and that they're not smart at all, and they're not capable of like advanced thought. But think about it. Even going back to when the WWE was kind of super hot again, it was those kind of like the higher power angle and the, you know, kind of, you know, the Brian Pillman angles and the Undertaker angles and the people. It pains me to think that people think that wrestling fans can't take intelligent booking, and you have to make things silly and stupid and hokey. And I admit we had silly and stupid and hokey in WSX, but that was kind of part of its charm, I think. But we took it and we embraced it. I mean,
you guys were aware of it. You were aware of it.
I mean, you don't, the blinged out ladder, for example. You know, one of our editors, and that was totally not easy. I have to give credit to our editor. One of our editors, his name is Derek. We came in one day and he was cutting the promo with Ruckus and Slim when Slim gives Ruckus the blinged out ladder, and he had added the sparkle effects. And everyone thought it was so funny. And I said, all right, well, here's the deal, though. That's funny. But if we're going to do that for the promo, the funnier part is we need to have that happening when they go out to the ring and have it every time they bring it out during the match. Because then you're going from, you know, okay, that might have been kind of cheesy to this is on purpose. They're purposely, you know, having CGI bling on a ladder. You know, they're acknowledging that they see that this is being done in a hokey, you know, kind of silly manner. And, you know, it's a matter of embrace it when you are. But, you know, having Don West sit there in Indian headdress and, you know, meditating with Sanjay Dutt, it's not funny. Like, it's just bad.
Right. They're fighting over briefcases. And
so I don't know if I answered your question at all, actually, now. But The positive is, for someone that loves to do it, it can be a dream come true, and you really get to express yourself creatively, and you get to finally, see what works and see what doesn't work. But never think that you know everything or that you can do it all on your own, and especially if you've never been a wrestler, make sure that you've got somebody who's got the in-ring knowledge and in-ring ability of how to sell the story within the match, making those decisions. And the negative is that, people are going to bitch and moan and complain and tell you that you suck. And, you just got to deal with that and, have confidence in your ability and know when to ask others for their ideas and suggestions, and never not be willing to take suggestions. Never not be willing to hear a wrestler out on their ideas for their character. Maybe they work within the storylines, maybe they don't. Maybe they have a good idea, maybe they don't. I think that we had the original idea for Matt Classic, but, Scott Colt Cabana, he made that character what it was. So it's really, have an open mind and practice. I mean, I got involved with the local independent federation here in LA, Slammers Wrestling Federation, when I was 16. I wrote for their program. I was a timekeeper. I was a ring announcer. I did everything I could just to be around the business and suck up the knowledge of the business from the promoter, from the other wrestlers. And then from that, we launched Southern California Championship Wrestling. And from that, we went to XPW. And, I think that my wrestling brain has developed every step of the way. And I wasn't, writing WSX, I was able to take the positive and negative experiences of XPW there. And I think that, should there be something in the future, we'll be able to take the positive and negative experiences of what worked with WSX but didn't work with WSX there. And so, get anyone that wants to be involved with wrestling, whether it's as a wrestler or as a writer or as whatever, find your local indie and get involved. I mean, I can't stress that enough. That is the best thing you can do. And, learn, develop yourself as whatever you are with your local independent wrestling federation. And if there isn't one in your town, then, start one.
Right. We got a caller here. We got Ryan. Oh, sorry, Jason. What were you saying?
I was just going to tell him that I actually do ring announcing, so I'm slightly in.
Good.
Yeah, I think you've even done it for Chikara, haven't you?
No. I know some people who work for Chikara, but I've never done ring announcing for Chikara.
What's the group that you're involved with?
RPWF.
All right. Well,
never heard of them.
See, still, I mean, if
you gotta get start somewhere.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. Just, I'd say, talk with the people, whoever they are there, and try to see if you can start throwing in your 2 cents, and and if not, that's the thing too, is even if you're not writing for them, I mean, I have journals and logs and books of being younger and, playing fantasy booker and going, all right, if I was, if it was me at this point, what would I be doing for the Royal Rumble? What would I be doing for this? What would I be doing for that? And it's just a matter of kind of, trying to figure out all those bits and pieces. And it doesn't mean that you even have to broadcast, those opinions. You don't have to jump on a message board and broadcast your thoughts to the world. But, really just be always developing in your mind what you would be doing with, so-and-so wrestler or so-and-so roster. And that's how you're going to come up with, the most creative stuff. And then someday, you're hopefully in a position where you can apply that to somebody else and something else. I mean, there are storylines and angles that we did in WSX that were things that I had thought of for XPW that just never really fit the time and place. Or that were even older than that, ideas that I'd come up with, back when I was in high school or whatever. And so always be writing and coming up with ideas and angles, because someday there might be a way to apply that to an actual, show somewhere. So.
We get a caller here. We got Ryan on the line.
Yes, and good evening, sir. My question is, who are your personal favorite wrestlers in Wrestling Society X?
Oh, now I'm gonna get the emails and calls about how come you didn't say me. My favorite wrestlers. I think depends on how you look at that question. I think there's no denying the in-ring abilities of guys like Evans, Tornado, Ruckus, Teddy Hart, M-Dog 20, and Matt Sydal. I was so proud and so happy of what I guess you would call our light heavyweight division. They were all amazing standout guys. I think that in terms of how, laughs per segment, there's no touching Colt Cabana. The Matt Classic stuff, which was just a throwaway gimmick at first. It was literally, you can hear the whole. I'm not trying to push the DVD too hard. I'm just saying it's kind of a long story, but the whole story of where the Matt Classic character came from and where it was going and how it was really just a throwaway gimmick to get Cabana under contract and give him a few matches that were never going to be seen on TV. Kind of the whole story is told on the DVD. But if I'm starting a new roster tomorrow and he's not under WWE deal, I'm offering him the deal. And then I'm obviously skipping over Vampiro and Waltman because they were there because they're great workers and because we wanted them there. But in terms of the younger guys, and then there's guys that just, never really got the break they deserved. There's so much that we could have done with the tag team of Chaos and Aguilera. Chaos is one of the most underrated guys still today. Yeah. Really only got exposure in XPW and then WSX, but he's definitely a great talent. Aaron Aguilera is totally underrated as well. For a big man, he has got incredible ability in the ring.
He's a great talker. I don't think he really got a chance to do that like in WWE, but that was probably like one of our favorite interviews from last year when we had him on the show.
Yeah, and so great guy. It was great to be able to give a lot of the local guys, the guys that I've been, since XPW, there's been a lot of guys that have come up, like Human Tornado, like Scorpio Sky, who I've seen on local shows, and I've gone, if I do something again, these guys need to be part of that project. And it was great not only to be able to work with them, but to be able to put them on that national stage on MTV and give them that exposure. I'm trying to think of who else. I love everyone on that roster was there because they were hand chosen. Everybody had. Even Vic Grimes. I've loved working with Vic Grimes for years. Is he Teddy Hart in the ring? No. Is there anybody else that is as big as him that can move like him? Absolutely not.
He's always one of my. I always thought he was one of the most underrated guys.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of that's what the WSX roster before hitting the air was, the underrated and underexposed guys. I know there's guys that I'm not thinking of right now. Obviously the Dragon Gate guys were incredible to work with. It's just their style is just beyond the level of what most guys are capable of working at in the ring. And I was really looking forward to bringing in some more Dragon Gate guys in the future. So if there's ever another project, they will definitely be invited to be part of it. And even guys that I never worked with before, like Nate Webb and Josh Abercrombie. Not only did they work great together, but they're just great guys. We had such a good roster of guys who wanted to be there, whose hearts were into it, who were just driven to make this thing succeed and gave their all. And it was a long week. We taped, other than the pilot, we taped everything within a 5-day stretch, and that was guys having to wrestle at least once, if not twice a day. And by the end, guys were banged up and bruised up, and you can't be Matt Sydal and go out there and pull off those moves day after day after day and not be sore by the last day. But they all put it all on the line and delivered, and we were just so proud of everything. And it's great to sit there in the control room and watch the reactions of MTV executives, just their jaws on the floor over the performers that we brought to the show, and to be giving standing ovations in the control room after matches that the wrestlers didn't even know about because it wasn't in front of them, but it was it was pure from the heart from these executives, and it was really, really good. I think that everybody who's on that roster deserves a lot of credit, and I was glad that we were able to use them.
You brought up Teddy Hart. Now he's a guy that has kind of a bad reputation. Did you have any problems working with him?
No, it's funny. Obviously, that's a question that comes up most times. It's people talk about Wrestling Society X. Teddy is a unique individual.
Huh?
There is no one else like Teddy, and there's positives and there's negatives that come with that.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Teddy Hart is a bad person. I think that Teddy truly believes that he is to go out there every night and he is to give the fans what they paid for. Unfortunately for Teddy, like his experience in the WWE, sometimes his version of what the fans deserve isn't exactly the same as what the promoter or booker is thinking the fans need to be receiving that night. And then not because the promoter or booker is greedy, but just because there's angles, there's storylines, there's other people that need to be protected, there's other people that need to get over. And, sometimes Teddy's love of the fans and the desire to give them everything contradicts with what a promotion or a promoter may think is best for that evening. Personally, Teddy never gave me any problems. Teddy was always 110% with his heart into WSX. And so, personally, no. I never felt like he was doing anything but what was best for the show.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Teddy Hart. I think that's like a positive to me, is that he has like I don't know if it's an ego or a big personality or whatever, but I mean that stands out. I think you have to have that to become like a big star in wrestling.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to get walked all over. And I think it's a matter for everybody of finding that fine line between believing in yourself and having a super ego. I mean, from everything I understand, John Cena is still a very humble person, and he has been given the world over the last couple of years. And it's great to see someone like that. But of course there's other guys out there who have, just been known for squandering chance after chance after chance because they can't keep their mouths shut and they feel like the world needs to be handed them on a silver platter. Oftentimes because they feel they're better than everyone else on a roster and they're not. I think it's a matter, you need to have enough ego to protect yourself, but know when enough is enough.
Yeah. You called the guys earlier, like light heavyweights. Do you think it's like good for a promotion to label them as cruiserweights or X division? Or is it better to still let them do what they do?
We didn't. That was the thing. And we again talked about on the alternate commentary. We were having such a hard time. We knew that we were going to come up with a secondary title for season 2, and it was set up in the first season that it would be Evans and Tornado wrestling for that belt, which was basically going to be our, light heavyweight title. But we could not come up with a name, and we kept saying, all right, as long as we come up with a name, by the time Lacey does the promo with them for episode 10, we'll be fine. And we still couldn't come up with a name for the division. It was like, I really liked ROH's idea of Generation Next, but obviously we didn't want to call it the Generation Next title because that would be copying ROH. And then we tried flipping it, and it was like Next Gen, but then it's like, it sounds a little too Star Trek-y. And so we could not. And I still, I finally kind of stopped thinking about it because we weren't going to be coming back for a second season, but I think on that promo, it's like, it's going to be all about high flying, high energy, no, nonstop, whatever, balls to the wall action or whatever, but we never named that title because I didn't want to call it light heavyweight and didn't want to call it cruiserweight, because it was more about a style than a weight, but that's the X Division's claim too, and for the most part, it's cruiserweight guys, but that's understandable. Those are the guys that can wrestle that style. You're not going to get Grimes out there doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you have something else there, Jason?
Actually, yeah. It's not so much a question. It's just something I wanted to state for a long time. I don't deny that I liked XPW, and one of the reasons I liked XPW is because, as much as most people are going to groan when I say this, I always thought there was a real old school feel to the XPW shows with the dim lights and the focus on the ring, and it had a bit of a territory feel about it. Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to say that I liked XPW for.
Well, I appreciate that. I sincerely appreciate that. It's really funny because we spent the years that we were XPW. So I don't know, because I I spent 6 years with Rob, but I think that was probably about a year building and then a year after. So about 4 years of us running XPW, yeah, from 99 to 2004. And of course, we got shit on the entire time we were promoting. And I've discussed before my takes on some of those reasons, why I think we were shit on more than I think we should have been. But, I am amazed, and literally, I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, but touched at the response that we've been getting now. The sales on the season 1 DVD have blown us away, and the comments now. I mean, there's an XPW MySpace page that I don't run, but it's run by somebody that used to work for XPW and used to work for Big Vision and is kind of behind. Keeping kind of the promotion of the current XPW DVD releases going. And I actually last weekend went to it for the first time in a long time. And I was reading the comments and I was blown away by, and I think that people now, because they're not in the heat of the moment, they're not in the heat of, oh, those are the a-holes that showed up at the ECW Heatwave pay-per-view, and oh, those are the a-holes that are trying to be ECW, and people are going back now and watching it without those kind of thoughts in their head and just watching it for what it was. And it was good. It was good. We never got enough credit for the comedy. We never got enough credit for some of the great wrestling that we had, especially towards the end. I mean, there's no doubt, and nobody denies it, that at our very first show, it was, by Rob's demand, how much can we be like ECW? How many tables can we break? How much blood can we spill? I mean, if anyone's seen Hardcore Conception, which was our first VHS, we never put it out on we never put it out on DVD because it was so embarrassing at the time. Because literally, we had Chris Kloss in the ring doing a promo, a direct ripoff of Raven, and part of that was a big FU to ECW. Because what a lot of people never really knew was that Rob and Paul were in business together. They were supposed to be doing business together, promoting ECW shows in Brazil, and Rob was going to be involved with promoting ECW on the West Coast. When Paul got his deal with TNN, and somebody somewhere brought up Rob being a pornographer, Paul literally did a Rob who, and we had held off promoting the first XPW show for about 6 months because there was a question of whether we were going to really launch XPW or whether we were going to just promote ECW shows on the West Coast. And the X in XPW, originally, Sheldon Goldberg came up with the concept. It was just X. It was that unknown. It was actually, what they now are saying about the X division. It was the X Factor. It was going to be XPW. It was never going to be Extreme Professional Wrestling because we didn't want it to be, oh, it's an ECW ripoff. But once Paul did what he did to Rob was like, war's on, and that's kind of where that came from. But I'm so excited now, and it's really cool. I don't know if anybody who's listening has seen the first season. But a lot of what was on the first season DVD came off of old masters, like old VHS masters. But season 2, we were actually able to go back and find a lot of the original original beta tapes. And so the season 2 DVD is so much better than the first season DVD. And it's got since someone had before asked about writing, one of my favorite things that I ever wrote in wrestling was the homeless Jimmy story, when we finally revealed why Jimmy was homeless. And that's on the season 2 DVD. So when it comes out in January, if you were an XPW fan, pick it up. And
Jimmy rules, by the way.
Homeless Jimmy's awesome.
Yeah, I actually have the whole I think the whole series of XPW on VHS tape.
Well, you'll have to upgrade that to DVD.
Yeah,
and I just it's funny looking back because even now I watch some stuff that I forgot we did, or I was like, how did we do that? Why did we do that? Or like, wow, I'm being completely honest. It's like there are some things I look at and I'm like, we should have got more credit for that. That was a good storyline. That was a good angle. That was a good match. And I think a lot of people never, especially towards the end, once we started running in Philly and Pittsburgh, and we were, we had some tremendous matches. Great guys on the roster. We were bringing in Johnny Storm from England, and we were, using some of the other guys, East Coast guys we hadn't used before. The guys like Jerry Lynn and Joey Matthews, and it was really, we were really doing some good stuff. And now I'm enjoying people watching the stuff again, and then kind of getting back into it. It's funny too because there was a guy who works here who was wearing an XPW shirt, because there's new shirts available on bvdvd.com, the logo shirts, and wore it into like a Little Caesars down the street from us at the office the other day. And the guy at Little Caesars was like, XPW, I used to love watching that show. And it's just like, there's still random, like, there'll be random times where I'll be at like a restaurant or a mall or something, and like someone will walk by and just be like, Taco Dude. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm like, people are throwing out XPW references like years later, and I'm just
bring that up on the show, Dorco Dude.
I'm just like blown away by the response today, and I'm thank you for saying that you actually enjoyed XPW.
We get a caller here. We got Flea on the line.
Yes, you do. And I just want to say, Jack's right. Homeless Jimmy was the boss.
Oh yeah. Flea and
so was Pogo. I love me some Pogo.
Yeah, I was. Pogo. That's probably like the greatest vignette of a guy coming into a promotion of all time.
Oh, that was like the sickest, most demented thing I had ever seen. I loved it.
I have to give credit where credit was due. That was all Rob Black. Wow. Rob had a collection of paintings done by serial killers. Rob had an obsession with serial killers. Which, and I got to tell you, some of the best inspiration. I have a book on my shelf right now here. It's one of those bargain books that I picked up at Barnes & Noble one day. The Most Evil Secret Societies in History. It's about like the Klan and about the Hellfire Club and about all these other like underground evil secret societies. And like some of the best inspiration for wrestling can come from real world stuff, and it's just a matter of tweaking it. And obviously with this, there wasn't much tweaking. The guy, Pogo was made to look directly like John Wayne Gacy. But and I'm actually surprised at the amount of how should I word it? I'm surprised we didn't get more heat for that than we did. I think it went over a lot of people's heads. But and it's great because the kid that we used in all those vignettes was Supreme's son. So we're out there at the park, and we're shooting all these vignettes. His son's like, we're like, go with the evil clown, just go with him. And his son's kind of giving us the eye, like, what the hell's going on? Like, it's a little scary, but we definitely that Pogo was great.
When Pogo's patting down the dirt there with the shovel, and there was a little glove there that he didn't actually bury Supreme's son.
No, that was a fake hand. Potentially used in an Extreme Associates movie. I can't say. I'm not 100% sure. I'd
say quick. A friend of ours, the friend of Flea and I's, Ron, one year for my birthday, it was either my birthday or Christmas, he actually gave me a Pogo the Clown pin.
That was pretty sweet.
I don't know what that says about us, but...
Yeah. Pogo and Joe, it's so funny, because you look at this guy, this big, huge monster of a man. He is one of the sweetest people, not just in wrestling, he's like one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life, and I hope I'm not like ruining his chances of getting work elsewhere now. But and for future reference, only person ever to tattoo the XPW logo on their body.
I was wondering
as far as I know.
Yeah.
So, Joe's great guy, and, I cannot say enough good about him.
Do you have anything else there, Flea?
I wanted to know if there was any, like, secret story or anything you could tell us about, the Negro Claus, which was the most bizarre thing.
You are a fan.
Absolutely. Jack and I would watch that all the time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm telling you, again, full credit to Rob Black. That was just straight out of the mind of Rob. just one day sitting around the office, you know, going, this would be funny, and it was. I mean, and then it just kept growing though, because it went from NC to Sulu to Rolo the Bear, and I think season 1 has some of those segments, and it's just like him sitting there and the camera cutting back and forth between all these toys, and I mean, that was the thing. It you know, similar kind of to what I hope some of the charm of WSX was. We never took ourselves too seriously. It's like, let the serious stuff be serious, let the comedy stuff be completely tongue-in-cheek. You know, we're not, I keep going back to that TNA example. I think that TNA writers thought that Don West sitting there with Sanjay Dutt was funny. I really think they probably chuckled around that boardroom table writing that skit.
That would probably be more
but it's not the same
entertaining than TNA, just watching those people write that show.
And that's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I have so much respect for every individual in that TNA organization. I think Russo and Jarrett and Mantell and Borash are all tremendous, tremendous guys with tremendous, tremendous brains for this business, probably much more than mine. So I don't get why nothing's working for me there.
Right.
But that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thanks a lot, and I wish you all the best in whatever you decide on doing in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling in, Flute.
Yep.
We also got Brian Jones here on the line.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I was trying to call earlier. Yeah, you guys were talking about serial killers and spiraling wrestling. I don't know if you were aware of this or not, but one of Mick Foley's early gimmicks was Cactus Jack. He was previously known as Cactus Jack Manson.
Right. And Jake the Snake always claims that his hero is Charles Manson. I believe he said that on
Jake
our
the
show.
Snake, the character, or the real, or the actual guy?
The real guy. He said that on our show, I believe. But he explained it. It wasn't. He explained that this was a little small guy. Wasn't physically intimidating, and he got people to do a lot. For him just through his through talking.
Well, that's I mean, like I said, there's inspiration. There's inspiration in some of the darndest places.
Right. Well, see, let's. Charles Manson was inspired by Beatles songs to do horrible things, so maybe someone could be inspired by Charles Manson to do something good.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. We do not condone serial killers here on the show.
No, we just condone turning them into characters and entertaining people with
exactly.
their personas.
Did you have anything else, Brian?
This was kind of an off-topic question, but still about wrestling, something that I've been trying to locate from you guys. I didn't know if any of you have any idea where I can find it. I'm trying to find the full audio of the Billy Jack Haynes shoot interview, because I've seen clips of it. It looks...
Is that our video?
Dude, we can't give it.
Yeah, but I have to buy the video. I mean...
Are you asking us for pirated tapes?
Hang up on Brian.
I'm not sure about this, but I do believe that someone posted a link to the whole video over on our message board at inyourheadonline.com, but I would not condone such behavior.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as I don't go to jail for it, Yeah.
Well, thanks for... Do you have a question for Kevin here? Or?
What inspired you to be a wrestler in the first place, just out of curiosity? Who was your main...
He went over that,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to listen. I'm sorry about that.
Never make it happen again. No, I won't bore everyone with my 97-minute answer again.
Well, was there one particular guy that you just saw and this is what I...
All right. As you must know, I can admit I'm fully embarrassed by it these days, but I know there's a lot of other people out there that will say the same thing. The Ultimate Warrior.
Oh my God.
He was it. He was the guy that made me want to do this. And it was his match with Savage at WrestleMania 7, which I still, that's the thing.
Match.
But wrestling, and I'll stand by this, wrestling these days in terms of the in-ring ability, you can't compare to back then. You absolutely can't. Hogan and Warrior at WrestleMania 6, I'd rather watch, move for move. I'd rather watch Seidel and Evans any day. But the drama and the stories that they were able to tell, you don't get that these days. You can, I defy anybody to find an American match that's been on television. I'm not talking about some of the ROH matches. I'm talking about an American television match these days that has the drama of Hogan Warrior WrestleMania 6 or Savage Warrior WrestleMania 7. I mean, literally emotional roller coasters for the fans during those matches, and you don't get that these days.
What about the Battle Royal from the Raw 15 anniversary show? I mean, that was kind of dramatic in its own way.
Oh, it was fun to see the people. I don't know how dramatic the actual.
I see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for taking my call. Thank you.
Thanks for calling, Brian.
See you, Brian.
We'll edit out all the stuff about pirated tapes.
Good Lord. I can top the Ultimate Warrior, though. At a house show, you know how back in the 80s they would always, like, if somebody was a fan of somebody, they'd hold up their poster? Well, at a house show, I held up a Brutus the Barber Beefcake poster.
Oh, man. But the guy who got me into wrestling was Piper. He was the only guy I ever had a poster up on my wall. I'm not too embarrassed admitting that one, though.
Yeah, no, that's I wouldn't be either.
Great. We also got Santo here on the line.
Santo Loco from New Orleans. What's going on?
You got a question for Kevin?
Yeah. No, I just want to let you know I enjoyed the DVDs, man. The Wrestling Saudi X.
Great.
Too bad, it wasn't on, for a long, because I tell you, bro, you got plenty of good, talented Latino wrestlers there with the Cartel and the Waffles,
Absolutely. I mean, I honestly.
My homeboy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. I think that the person or promoter who can take a concept like Wrestling Society X and apply it to the lucha world for the young Hispanic audience in America. Not just me. I mean, for the 12 to 34-year-old Hispanic audience is going to make a ton of money.
Do you think it would have to be in English? Do you think the Spanish would hold it back at all?
I don't think. It's different markets. The Hispanic population in America is not given nearly the amount of entertainment options for their disposable income, if that makes sense to anybody. The disposable income of the Hispanic population of America is so much more than the entertainment options they're given, because not that many people are producing entertainment specifically for the Hispanic population, and it's a shame. And the person that can figure out how to do that right with pro wrestling is going to be very rich.
Yeah, because now Santo's spending all his money on beads to get to see boobs down in New Orleans.
I mean, but you're right about that, because you notice when WWE goes to all the different cities, like in Texas and Los Angeles, what do you see in the crowd the most? You see majority Latinos.
Well, you got to look and see what the NWA has done this past year. The NWA has been promoting shows in Texas and in Texas and in Hidalgo, in Dallas, and other cities throughout the United States with heavy Hispanic populations, and they've been bringing in a few names, Santo and Parca, and they've been drawing, nobody really pays attention to this or notices this, but they've been drawing the biggest crowds of any promotion all year. They've been drawing 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people to these shows, which are mostly younger, not necessarily nationally known NWA wrestlers, guys that, people listening to the show might know, guys like Rocky Romero and Adam Pearce and earlier this year they were using Cabana and some of the other guys, but then bringing in Nico and Blue Demon and some of these big name lucha guys, and they've been drawn huge all over the country all year, and I think WWE has tried half-assed to promote to the Hispanic audiences, but you have to know nothing more than watching them squash Rey in San Diego to, I don't remember who it was, Kali or somebody, to know that they just don't get it. They just don't get it.
Yeah, they did the same with Eddie Guerrero, too.
Yeah.
I remember. With John Cena, when John Cena was the heel.
Yeah.
Same thing. But, man, I tell you, I enjoyed the DVDs. I'm an old XPW fan, whenever I had a chance to watch it online or when they had it syndicated here in New Orleans. A big fan of the Altar Boy Luke.
I was just going to say, well, then you must be a fan of Luke.
Yeah, I met him at a local show here, He's a cool guy.
No, Luke is a great young talent. He's got a bright future in this business.
Mm. Right. Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
I don't know if they've mentioned this. This is something that happened. I mean, I wonder if you give us a little rundown about if this was going to happen. It was an ECW pay-per-view with a couple of XPW guys in the front audience.
Yes.
Well, if you could, this.
Well, yeah. Here I'll give you the complete story from the guy who bought the tickets for the front row. That'd be me. So ECW's coming to town, right? And this is right before I think this is right before our 1 year anniversary show, which was going to be at the Sports Arena in LA with Terry Funk and Sabu in the main event. And Rob looked at it as, screw these guys, they're coming into our backyard, let's mess with them. And we looked at it as the potential to have the greatest publicity stunt of all time. And and this is something that I've gone into it on Mike Johnson's radio show with him before, because after this happened, he was so Mr. Anti-XPW, back in the day that, I swear on everything, on my future in this business. If ECW had done the same thing on a WWE pay-per-view, they would have been heralded as the coolest, greatest, most genius people on the planet. But because we did it to everybody's beloved ECW, we were looked at as, pieces of crap who, should have gone back to their indie fed somewhere. So they're coming to town. And we went, how great would it be if we could get the entire front row? So I did what anybody else would do, and I was in line at Ticketmaster at Tower Records the morning tickets went on sale, and I bought the entire first row. We bought the first row on the floor, and we had to guess where the hard camera was going to be. Unfortunately, we got the side opposite the hard camera, I think. But, there was no denying we were there. And then we also got the first row of the balcony right above the entrance, which is where I was sitting. And the plan was just to go in, be seen with the XPW T-shirts on camera, and that's it. We were not looking to start a fight. We were not looking to cause a ruckus. Well, we get there. And actually, and our plan was to be able to pass out flyers for our event the following week and promote our Sabu and Terry Funk show to the people that would have most wanted to go. So we get there, and I've never had a security guard personally assigned to me in my life. It's kind of an honor to know that I had an Atlas security guy whose job was to watch me the entire night, because somebody thought that me and my 145 pounds or whatever was going to, do something. So we're sitting up in the balcony part, and there's a security guy on us, and every time we got up to use the bathroom or anything, it was like, being followed. And backstage, they had another local promoter, this guy who used to be a local promoter out here, and Jasmine St. Clair, pointing out on the cameras every time an XPW person, came into the building or, sat somewhere or whatever. So they had their sights set on us. And so most of the guys get to the building, and Ronnie from Atlas Security, who ironically ended up working for XPW and WSX, who was cool with all of us from when we had hung out when we were still friendly with ECW. He basically told the guys, look, you got to turn your shirts inside out. There's no way they're going to let you be on camera with those shirts on. Okay, so we did that. So then the only thing we were going to do was when the main event came on, we're like, fuck it. We'll have Christy take off her shirt, so that she's wearing her bikini top, and everybody else will turn their shirts around so they're wearing the XPW shirts, and what are they going to do? Stop the main event? And that was it. That was the plan. Well, Christy stands up, takes off her shirt, all the other wrestlers stand up, and like they were already lined up right behind the curtain, the entire ECW locker room clears out and starts brawling with the guys in the front row. And they brawl clear out the building, live on pay-per-view, as Joey Styles is trying to explain that there's some drunken fans in the audience and, we'll be back with you momentarily. Well, I had left the building right before the main event, because usually when we went to shows to promote, whether it was WWE or anywhere else, we would leave right before the main event to go out to the parking lot, grab our flyers, and be prepared for when the doors open and, make sure that we were flyering. I mean, there's nothing glamorous about it. You want to promote your local wrestling show, you gotta pound the pavement. And every one of us, Rob was sometimes out there, pounding the pavement. He had stayed home for this one, and he was watching it on pay-per-view, because he wanted to see how it was going down. And he was coming up with the ideas of all right, well then we'll wait till the main event, we'll turn the shirts around. But so I'm standing there on the corner, outside the Olympic, and I'm thinking everything's fine inside. And next thing I know, the side doors of the Olympic burst open, and Paul Heyman, with his headset on, in the middle of a pay-per-view, is standing out there in the middle of the street and open hand slaps Messiah across the face. And I'm like calling Rob on my cell phone, going, this is the most surreal thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, I don't even know. And I'm like hiding behind this guy, Tone, who's a friend of ours, who's like, 300 pounds or whatever. And so I'm like hiding behind him because I know that everybody knows, at this point what I look like. And, New Jack's out in the street and this guy's out in the street and they're pushing around our street team like girls and guys. And it was pretty interesting. I definitely don't think anything like that has happened before, and I doubt it will happen again. And I swear, I stand by the fact that, had ECW done that to the WWE, they would have been looked at as, the coolest rebels ever. But,
right.
we got crapped on. But, whatever. It's a piece of wrestling history.
That was great stuff, man. They should have kept going with that.
And I don't know if anybody else remembers though, but Rob took out an entire page ad in WOW magazine, a letter to Paul Heyman.
Mm-hmm. I remember he talked about it quite a bit on the XPW TV.
Well, yeah, and then Rob did his shoot, which is going to be on the season 2 DVD, by the way. You can see Rob's personal, because ECW at that point tried to sue us over using Sabu. And so we went to court. We actually took up Sabu's case, paying for his lawyers to fight his ECW contract, which is a separate issue. So that was that. But, I'm liking all this XPW love. It's nice. I had to wait, 5 years for it, but I'll take it now.
Yeah. Did you have anything else, El Santo?
Nah, that's about it. That's the story I wanted to hear. But about that. But man, I hope you have a great future, man. Hope to see some more wrestling from you.
Thank you so much.
Check out BigVisionEntertainment.com.
Or easier, BVDVD.com.
What was the other one?
Yeah, right.
BVDVD.com.
Oh, okay. We have the Big Vision Entertainment link.
Or either one. It goes the same place.
Okay.
Less letters to remember.
Right. One might be easier.
I do have After the Fall DVD. That was great.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's more coming out next year.
Great.
And I got to, there's a lot of people. I don't know. There's a lot of people that were part of XPW that keep asking about doing. Can we do one more? Can we do one last show? Can we do one last show? And there's so many positives and negatives to that, but 2008 will definitely have there'll be more XPW stuff coming out.
All right, great. All right, thank you so much.
This guy's been asking this a bunch of times in the chat room, so I better ask it. Dennis here in the chat room, yeah, he was saying that Supreme was his favorite guy in XPW and is wondering if he's still wrestling.
Supreme is wrestling right now. I think he's doing the Inoki dojo shows here in Los Angeles. the Inoki Dojo has, I think, Sundays in downtown Los Angeles. They run shows. I think he's been doing those shows. He was going to be part of Wrestling Society X season 2, but we never got there. No, Supreme's still around. He had to take some time off, but he's back, and promoters can probably book him if they want him.
Would Matt Classic been a big part of season 2? After he really got a cult following.
Okay, see, this is where I'd have to go into a 20-minute story, or it's on the DVD. Long story short, Matt Classic was never supposed to be a full-time gimmick. Cabana season 2 was supposed to be the Letterman Colt Cabana, a mix between Mr. Perfect and an Animal House guy, and he was supposed to be Matt Seidel's fraternity brother, and Lizzie was going to be cheating on Matt with Colt, and then Lizzie was going to turn from really prim and proper, I wear long skirts and nothing revealing until sorority slut with Cabana, who would be drinking beer bong off of her chest, and then Seidel, and then they would feud with Seidel. Well, because the Matt Classic character was getting over so much, we decided that maybe we'd end up working the storyline that he had been Classic the whole time as a way of him and Liz kind of cheating on Matt Seidel behind the scenes. And we actually shot, and it's one of the deleted scenes on the DVD, there's security camera footage, black and white, high-angle security camera footage of Classic and Liz interacting, which we were going to pull out potentially for that second season if we wanted to. So there was a chance after it got over so big the first season that Matt Classic would have stuck around the second season. And you can get your official Matt Classic T-shirt, limited edition, at BV-DVD or BigVisionEntertainment.com.
I'd actually like to get that one. I might go pick that up.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Hunter, he wanted to know, why did you not include the second round matches of the 2002 King of the Deathmatch tournament on the DVD?
Why did we not include
the second round matches of the 2002 King of the Deathmatch tournament on the DVD?
Taking it back to 2002.
Yeah, well, first off, that means I have to remember which one the 2002 tournament was.
Right.
Is that Baptized in Blood 1, 2, or 3?
I don't know. He emailed that question in, so I don't have him here to ask.
Okay. I think the first one was in 2000. So the second one was 2001, and the third one, but I don't know if that time frame works for me. I don't know. If he can figure out which one that is, I'll let him know.
All right, Hunter, if you're listening out there.
I don't know. We just re-released Baptized in Blood 1 and 2 as a 2-disc set from Big Vision. Some of the original DVDs that were released at the time, there was a movement in the DVD industry to cut DVDs down to about 60 to 90 minutes because there's too much stuff being given away for whatever. Not the idea. Nowadays, you got to give away 6 hours of content if you want to charge $20, which is fine. I like doing that. But so there were certain decisions that were made back then. But as stuff is being re-released now, it should be released in its entirety.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody check out now. It's BigVisionEntertainment.com, and what was the second one?
BV, Big Vision, BVDVD.com.
All right, and what's some new stuff they could pick up?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, in November we had obviously Wrestling Society X, and then we had the Best of Chikara come out. If you don't have the Best of Chikara, that's one of the other things that we're doing is that we've got our entire line of $9.98 or less DVDs. And if you're looking for, some different wrestling stuff, you should definitely check out our different $9.99 series. The FIP stuff is great. The Shimmer stuff is great. We've got the Best of Chikara. We have Revolucha from Detroit, the IWR promotion. They had a big show called Dia de los Muertos, and that came out in November. And then NWA Pro Wrestling, the shows that I was talking about that we're doing doing big shows all across the country. Mm-hmm. They've got DVD out right now, Copa de Lucha, and Fiesta Lucha. Those are two separate shows that came out. And then we put out a box set of Hardcore Homecoming 1, Hardcore Homecoming 2, and Forever Hardcore, the documentary. So if you're missing any of those from your collection, we've got all three of them. So it's a 6-disc box set that's out for a limited time. It's only $25 or less for all those together. So check that out, in stores or online at our site or wherever you normally buy your DVDs. And then if you haven't, just looking back at 2007 and some of our good stuff, anybody who's a fan of wrestling, I don't care if you don't know what the World Class promotion was, if your only exposure to World Class is the commercials that WWE's been running now for their DVD set. If you are a fan of the wrestling business, and if a lot of people listen to the show, if you're interested in the inner workings of the wrestling business, you need to get Heroes of World Class. It is by far one of, if not the greatest documentary ever done about wrestling. And it's not just about World Class. It's about how this promotion changed the way wrestling is presented, changed wrestling television. And then you've got the whole story of the Von Erichs and their triumph and tragedy. But definitely, if you haven't seen Heroes of World Class, you definitely need to. You owe it to yourself as a wrestling fan.
I'm not just saying this because you're here, but throughout the year we've really plugged that DVD because all of us really loved that. We probably thought it was like the best wrestling documentary of last year. Or
and the thing is that Brian Harrison, the director, he didn't treat this like a wrestling movie or a wrestling project. It's done. It's a documentary. It is a true documentary. He went out and he did it right, and he licensed the right music and licensed the right footage, and I mean this is worthy of being shown in theaters. And honestly, that's something we're actually hoping to do in limited release next year.
Yeah, I haven't seen the WWE one, but I know Incher has, and he thought that your guys' one was a lot better.
Oh, yeah, that's what the overall general consensus seems to be. I know that Dave Meltzer had basically said the same thing, and most of the reviews that I've seen online are for basically saying the same thing, that WWE's is what it is, but the Heroes of World Class is far superior. And then in January, we've got Before They Were Stars, Rey Mysterio Jr. coming out. That's got a lot of his matches from Mexico, like back when he was first starting. You see him like in bull rings with 200 people in the audience wrestling Juventud Guerrera, and in some of the other arenas throughout Mexico, and really, really old classic footage. And then on January 15th, XPW complete second season. We've got Glow Greatest TV Moments. If you haven't picked up any of our Glow DVDs, this Glow's Greatest TV Moments, which is basically a box set of volumes 1, 2, and 3. Definitely something you want to check out, and that would probably be in the TV on DVD section of your local DVD store, and not the wrestling section. And then I don't know how much anybody listening is into mixed martial arts, but we've launched an entire mixed martial arts company called Maximum MMA, and we're distributing a number of DVDs, usually about 2 DVDs a month in the MMA world. And if you want a really good deal right now, if you're just thinking about the MMA world and you've watched some UFC but you're not really sure if it's what for you, we've got a new program called DVD Fight Club. If you go to DVDFightClub.com, I think it's like $10 right now. You get a UFC 2-pack and a Cage Rage DVD and the Valor DVD. It's like 4 DVDs for $10. And it really, introduce yourself to some of the great MMA shows that are going on around the world, and what Big Vision's doing in that world right now.
Excellent. Let everybody know. One thing I wanted to bring up too before I let you go is I always thought Chris Kloss is definitely an underrated announcer.
I could not agree with you more. A lot of people don't get wrestling announcing. Now, I totally think that Chris at times is over the top. Chris and I have had not just Chris and I, Rob and I had our differences about Chris's delivery on some things. Houston, Big Vision CEO and executive producer of Wrestling Society X, and I have had some differences on how Chris delivers certain things. I was never really a fan of his scream, but so many people are.
Right. I like it.
But the bottom line is, Chris makes wrestling exciting. he draws you into the match, and he draws you into the show, and that's something that a lot of people don't have the ability to do. And the other thing is, it's really hard to find a good play-by-play guy. It takes a lot of work and effort. It's not as hard to find a good color commentator. A lot of people who are wrestling fans can turn into decent color commentators, but to find someone that can really deliver the action, great. I was watching, it wasn't wrestling, but I was watching HDNet had their debut MMA broadcast over the weekend, and I was watching their show, and their announcers were just so dry and boring, and I literally sat there and said, this show needs Chris Claus. Like, he would make the matches seem so much more interesting. No, I definitely agree with you. He is, I would say, the most underrated. Because so many people have such a bad taste in their mouth for him, I think, I would say he's the most underrated announcer in pro wrestling.
Yeah, and there's really a lack of, like, good announcers right now on TV. I mean, I think once JR retires, I mean, there's not going to be very many good play-by-play guys.
No.
That's definitely a guy I think, should be working on TV somewhere. Or hopefully in the new, if you guys start a new promotion sometime.
Yep. Well, we're always, and just so you know what's coming from Big Vision next, we didn't just, but we shot about, I don't know, 6 or 9 months ago now, a pilot for the G4 network, called Viva La Lucha, which is a lucha show in English. And we're just getting ready to deliver the pilot to the network next week, and we're hopeful that that they like it and air it and decide to pick it up. So it's not meant to replace Wrestling Society X or anything like that. It's a totally different take on a wrestling show. But so we've got that going, and we love the wrestling business, and we've got some ideas up our sleeves for the coming year.
Was there ever any consideration for bringing in a Larry Rivera to
for XPW? I mean, for WSX?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the ironic thing is,
violence for the sake of violence.
MTV. Okay, so here's the story. MTV, originally our broadcast team that we wanted for Wrestling Society X was Chris Claus, Ron Head, and Johnny Webb. White Sox Johnny Webb from XPW. Ron Head, who was a ring announcer for XPW and had promoted in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and then went down to work for OVW. MTV wanted one of our guys and someone that they hand chose. They ended up choosing Brett Ernst, who all things considered did a decent job. When we were going to do the Spanish version of the show for MTV Trace and for International, Rivera was supposed to be the host. It was actually going to be Rivera and I want to say Chingo Bling, who's a hip hop artist. But then they decided that they didn't want to spend the extra money to redo the VO and the wraparounds in Spanish, so they just aired the English version on the Spanish network. So, but Rivera actually, it's the Viva La Lucha show is hosted by Larry Rivera, so he's still part of the family.
Excellent. I'm a big fan of Larry Rivera as well.
I'm good. Yeah. No, Larry, Pat and Chris, Larry and Chris were a phenomenal team, and actually when the original broadcast partner for Larry for Viva La Lucha was going to be replaced, we made a big push for Chris to be brought in so that Chris and Larry could do the Lucha show together and put Chris over as kind of like the white guy that heard that wrestling was so great in Mexico he had to come down and see it for himself. But the network really wanted somebody more Hispanic, and Chris is pretty white. So we ended up going with somebody else. But there is a chance that sometime in the future you will see the Chris Claus and Larry Rivera team back together again.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you for coming on tonight. Everybody check out BigVDVD.com. BigVDVD.com or BigVisionEntertainment.com. Or you listen to InYourHeadOnline.com. There's actually a link right on the left, so just hit that.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
This is Supreme, and you're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com. Listen to it if you got the balls.